The Trump administration has unveiled a plan for food stamp reform by replacing a portion of food stamps with actual boxes of food. The proposal would save taxpayers money by giving low-income families a box of government-picked, non-perishable food delivered to their homes every month instead of federal EBT cards for grocery shopping. But not everyone is on board. Some critics call the plan rationing. And I think, do we have the Mick Mulvaney thought that we can play? We don't have it. Okay.
We do not.
So
it's been rationed.
This caught my eye because there's an Office of Innovation at the White House. I think this is kind of an innovative thinking. It did get immediately panned because it sounded like you were trying to make food stamp recipients the bad guys, and also that we're going to send them food. And they use the example of Blue Apron, which is a very sort of a yuppie thing to do.
Yeah.
But I'm not against this idea of sending really good, nutritious foods directly to the home, and then the remaining money is on the EBT card.
Like a Harry and David basket?
No.
I think it's. I mean, look,
those?
I think it's a good idea in the sense of making sure that people do get their food.
Right.
That's important. I think the bigger story, though, is that the only war that has the war on poverty has actually worked. I mean, if you look at the statistics over time, but the primary cure of poverty is capitalism, because in order to make these programs, whether it's boxes of food or welfare, you have to have a strong economy that creates wealth so that, let's face it, then it gets distributed. I have this interesting fact. You know, in 1820, 94% of the world lived in extreme poverty. By 2015, 90% are not living in extreme poverty. That's from our World in Data. The biggest impacts are democracy, market forces, and education. But it really is about market forces, allowing people to create wealth so they can help others.
Well, part of market forces is creating new technologies that allow you to deliver goods and services in a different way. And this is the White House just coming up with a different idea.
It's Amazon Prime for food stamps. I think it's a great idea. Right now, food stamps skyrocketed under President Obama, and under President Trump, they're coming down. That's a good thing. You don't want to be dependent on government, but you want to do it with heart. So right now, the program costs about $70 billion. And I think the poverty line where you qualify is about family of three, $26,000 a year. And you're going to get about $125 a month. That's great. So it's not a racial thing either. Most of the people that get food stamps are white. Food stamp fraud is pretty bad, and I have a whole list here of people ripping off the federal government for $3, $4, $5 million. And what happens is you come in with your EBT card and you buy $100 worth of food. Not really. You buy $50 worth of food, and then the guy behind the counter gives you $50 cash. That needs to change, and this helps change that.
What do you think, Juan?
Well, I don't know. I was listening to Jesse because I was so interested, but I think that what I read today was that the fraud is only 1.5%, that it's very low.
Well, 1.5% of $70 billion is a lot of money.
That's a result of the EBT cards, the electronic benefit transfers that can now be monitored very carefully, and so they can detect fraud. What strikes me here is things like fresh fruit. I don't think you're going to see that. And the second thing is, why do you want to punish people who have very few choices in their lives anyway?
From being able to choose what they want.
They're
But
also
there's nothing
going
to say
after,
that you wouldn't be able to choose.
Well, that's certainly not. I think they said these were called harvest baskets or harvest boxes, and they decide what goes in the box, and they give you the box because they say this is nutritious food and good enough for you. Well,
it's sort of like school lunches, right?
I don't think that they're trying to punish anybody by coming up with an idea that's just to talk about. This is not actually happening. It's just something to figure out a way to get goods and services.
I think it's a novel idea, to be able to provide nutritious food and make sure, but people are going to want self-determination and choice. We tried this in San Francisco with Care Not Cash, which providing, services and beds and drug counseling, et cetera, instead of just the cash handing over to people. Huge controversy. They lit a sofa in front of my house on fire. It was like
sorry about that.
All night. Yeah, it didn't go over too well. But I like the idea, the concept behind the Blue Apron, et cetera. People, if you want to make healthy choices, especially for families and children to have, nutritious food, but they're going to want to decide whether they buy junk food or not.
Interesting. All right, ahead, artificial intelligence meets man's best friend. The latest robot innovation that's getting a lot of attention up next from Greg.
Robot.
Who shot an arrow through my heart. Thank you, mama, for